Hello and welcome everyone to Adobe Live for Business. Thank you for choosing to tune in today and watch the session we have prepared for you, either live or on demand. My name is Matthew Mifsud, a solution consultant here at Adobe, and I will be hosting today's session. But before we crack on, I just wanted to let you know what we have in store for you for the following session. And it's all going to be about accessibility and how it factors in the design process. Joining us in that session will be Will Butler and Alexander Jensen from the mobile app Be My Eyes, where we will be discussing the importance of accessibility, inclusivity in design, and how that affects company culture. We will also need to look at the responsibility that we share as a design community in making sure we consider it in the design processes and models. It will be such a good session, so make sure you set up a reminder either by subscribing to the channel or by clicking on the webpage below and register for updates. So, on to today's session. And the topic at hand, front of mind for everyone, is sustainability. You know, we all need to play a part in making sure that we protect our natural environment and safeguard, well, for the present, but more importantly, for the future generations to come. And in fact, this is a huge focus for Unilever, who are on a mission to ensure that 100% of their plastic packaging is designed to be fully reusable, recyclable, and or compostable. And in fact, to discuss further and understand the role design plays in creating these products, today with me, I am delighted to welcome, and I've had the pleasure actually to work with these two gentlemen for the last 2 years, Chris Weir and Oliver Bolton from Unilever. Hello, Chris. Hello, Oliver. Welcome.
Hi, Chris. Hi, Matt.
Right, so before we actually get into the subject, why don't you guys introduce yourself to our audience?
Yeah, cheers. Thanks for inviting us, Matt. Glad to be here. So yeah, my name is Chris Weir. I look after the global design process with packaging in HomeCare for Unilever. So that's kind of a third of Unilever. We look after personal comfort, Domestos and Sif, so brands like that globally, and whatever they are around the world, however the brand changes. So yeah, we look after the creative part of the packaging design process for HomeCare.
And hi, I'm Ollie. So I'm the Global Design Manager for packaging within the hair category. So very similar role to Chris, very different brands for the likes of Dove and Tresemme.
Excellent. Thank you so much for introducing yourself. So you guys are responsible for literally the conception and the creation of the packaging design. So what is this workflow like? And what sort of considerations do you usually have to take in the design process before this ends up in the shelves?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think the easiest way to start off, the answer in that one is it's all around consumers. We're a consumer-led business. Every project we have, we put the consumer at the heart of what we do. So we really like to have that pain point and the passion from the consumer from the beginning. So we make sure we design around their solution. So I think that's the biggest thing for us. And that obviously means then throughout the process, it's all about validating and testing with the consumer. So we're not making any assumptions based on our own preferences, our own kind of design or aesthetic opinion. It's all based on that consumer validation. So that's probably the biggest thing with probably touch on there. Secondly, I think it's important to mention we do have an internal design team. So we do a lot of the work internally, but we couldn't do anything without our external partners, our world-class partners and agency partners as well. So we have a real holistic approach to our design process. And I think something that's really important to us is getting more, ideas, more opinions into the mix as well. So you kind of balance that consumer need with the kind of the creative knowledge and expertise we have both internally and externally. It's probably worth saying as well, you then take it a step further, I think, when it comes to what our process and workflow would look like, is we have to make it real. We have to put it down on factory lines. So it's balancing that consumer need with what's right for the business and what's right for the factory. So we make sure we work with all them internal teams as well to make sure we can get it on the shelf. So yeah, really diverse, a real kind of fun process in the way we design our products, but the main thing is the consumer is at the heart of everything we do.
Yeah, and I think with all those things that we've got to take into consideration, the key tool for us is through design briefing. So there's many different facets and inputs that need to go into a really great design brief, whether that be for us to do it internally or we use our external partners, as Chris mentioned. It's got to be good for the consumer, it's got to be good for the business, but as the topic of today, it's got to be good for the planet as well. And sustainability just underpins everything that we do as a business. So it's really key that the design brief is spot on up front. Otherwise, the output is not going to be suitable for what we're trying to achieve.
So actually, it's very interesting you mentioned that the topic at hand, you said sustainability now is a key driving factor, right? Is a criteria, basically, like you've had a criteria, this needs to stand up upright. Nowadays, this needs to be a sustainable product. So how has this impacted? Because obviously Unilever, I go to the supermarket, there's tons of products in Unilever branding there. How does this now has impacted your design process, first of all, and how do you see it has changed over the years?
Yes, I think first of all, we start by looking at defining what sustainability is. So the very obvious win is that it's about packaging reduction and reducing waste. The way we define it as a business is kind of three key areas. That's like improving health and well-being. So, billions of people buy our products. So we have a role to play there for health and hygiene, nutrition. There is the reduction of waste, but also things like greenhouse gases in aerosol products, like where we source materials from. And then we have probably the part we've done so well for so long is like enhancing livelihoods for people. So, that's about creating lots of opportunities, creating brands and products that people love, trying to be more inclusive. So to frame up sustainability, it's all of these things that we don't just look at it as one thing, which is packaging waste. If I was to say like how it's changed for our design process, I think now what we do is we measure our successes on their sustainability impact. So it's not just that it's great in market, it's better than competition, or it sells more. We're actually measuring the impact of what we're doing to the planet. And that's a very complex thing to do. As I said, it's not just going to be, is it using less material? We've got to think from how we create the thing in the first place, all the way through its product life cycle, how it's disposed of. So there's many things that we look at there. I think the biggest thing I've noticed in my experience at Unilever is it's actually given us loads of opportunities. So packaging has always predominantly been plastic, but now we're looking at exciting new materials. We're looking at trying to create new experiences for people using products that don't exist today and then for the future. So as a designer in the business, it's really quite exciting because sustainability has kind of changed what sort of the brief is and what we're trying to design, because there's so many things we've got to now take into account.
Do you find actually, going back to the materials, for example, one of the things that you notice is paper is coming back? Is there kind of do you guys attempt to look at what was before as well, back in the old days that was changed and bringing it back? Does that factor into the design process as well?
Yeah, it's very much an iterative thing, a design process. And we always look back at, we have great ideas in the past and they may not have landed or worked for whatever reason that may be, but that doesn't mean it's not a great idea. It could just be that the timing is wrong. So we have loads of ideas and things that we've tried before, which they could come back again. So frequently revisiting things that we've done before. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good point, Ollie. I think, the formulation and what we put in the pack as well plays such a big role, so marrying all that up together and finding new opportunities. It's really exciting. I think every day is different. I think you've got that, the kind of the science side of it, which is kind of going really, really quick. But consumers' habits, consumers' kind of expectations are changing so quickly. I think to me, that's what's really kind of meant the design process had to really step up its game as far as speed and agility. So we need to respond, test, learn, validate ideas much, much quicker. And I think the way design's positioned, it's kind of perfectly suited to enable that kind of process. But yeah, it makes every day different, I think, Ollie, doesn't it? It's
for sure.
Actually, Chris, you've touched on a very interesting point here about the science behind also goes in, because obviously you guys are responsible for the physical design, packaging, the aesthetic part of it as well. But it would be interesting, how does it work with engineering, for example, or the scientists involved in the formulation? Do you guys tend to work very closely with those teams?
Yeah, I think we're based in the same location. We're part of the same organization as far as R&D, research and development. So yeah, if there is a new formulation, we're part of that team, not part of that project team. So very much seamless in the way we work. Yeah, I think the easiest way to explain it is, you can't just put any laundry detergent in any packaging. There has to be certain. We have packaging labs. We have a lot of testing. So there's a lot of science that goes kind of behind the curtain, if you like. Yeah, when I first joined Unilever, it was like my eyes were really open to the amount of clever scientists that were there, and I was just kind of this designer that walked in. But when you really spot the kind of the different technologies, then it really gets the creativity going and different ways you can solve problems and things. So yeah, but in summary, we're all part of the same team. So yeah, completely integrated.
Excellent. So, and actually that's very interesting. So how do you see then, again, since now sustainability is a key factor to be part of the brief, how do you see that as being one of the biggest challenges in promoting it, especially for a consumer goods company, where, as we said, you've got a lot of these products which unfortunately they're made of plastic and have an impact on the environment?
Yeah, of course. When you watch the news and you see, Unilever products in the ocean, it's not a great feeling. It's something that's kind of, it does make you kind of wince and sit up a bit. But I think the commitments that Unilever make, HomeCare have just launched their Clean Futures commitments as well. So all around reducing the use of virgin plastic, eliminating the dependence on fossil fuels within our infrastructure and in our formulations, in our products. So we're doing the right things, I think, is the main thing. And I think there's, it's not a competitive advantage anymore to go after sustainability. And I think maybe that's what was something in the past. I think it's an opportunity to collaborate, whether that's with our competitors, with our suppliers, and really kind of benefit the world. I think, it has been a struggle maybe in the past, but there's opportunities there, there's technologies there. We can, we've all got to do it together, I think, is the main point. And hopefully Unilever's leading that charge, the commitments that we've made. And yeah, I think we have to think differently. We have to unlock different ways that consumers want to buy the products and buy into these new sustainability kind of propositions. It's every consumer is different. Some people will buy it purely based on it's going to help the planet, but some people want something for them as well. So whether it's Sif Eco refills, for example, we're reducing the amount of virgin plastic that we put out into our products. But it's a new experience. It's a different price point. It's benefiting everybody. And they're the types of things that we need to kind of really push and do more of and innovate around. Obviously, there's hidden things that we can do as well around using recycled plastic into our packaging as well. That's more hidden. But yeah, I think when you come back to your question around promoting, I think it's got to be an industry level, hasn't it? And the way we're pushing from a Unilever perspective. So yeah. And there's also the way Ollie spoke about alternative materials. That's something that we can start to unlock as well.
So don't you find that, because obviously you said as a company, you're still a company, so you still make money. So do you find that there's a fine balance to strike? Sustainability isn't easy to achieve. How do you work around that? Ollie, maybe take this.
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely the nuances between the different categories in which we work within. Home care products may be seen for more as a commodity for cleaning, and hair care is very much a category where people want products to make themselves look and feel beautiful, and they want great looking hair, for example. So at the end of the day, the consumer is still buying this product for the benefit it's going to give them. Yes, they obviously, and it's great that they do have this sense of purpose for brands to be more sustainable and care about the planet. So we have to balance those things. Chris has alluded to, we need to make things which people love and the brands we have today that they love, but we need to do it in a sensitive yet sustainable way as well. So that's the challenge, is balancing the two, is because if we go too far to one extreme, then you don't really find that sweet spot, so juggling the two is definitely a challenge, I'd say.
Do you find actually, it's a very interesting question, especially with things like hair and something that really affects someone directly, that where does the consumer line exist? how much am I going to do this all myself to sacrifice? Maybe my hair is not as luscious and shiny. I've got tons of it clearly, but where do you guys have to struggle with that balance as well? Because obviously there's that, and also you still have to make money on the product, right?
Yeah, of course. And I guess it depends who that consumer is. You have many different segments in many different geographies. A consumer in India who might have a lot less to spend than, say, a Western consumer. You still want to deliver great experiences to every consumer, but they're going to be different. So sustainability might mean one thing to, say, our consumer in India versus, say, someone in the US. There's always going to be a trade-off as well, is like sustainability at what cost. So yes, we could make the most sustainable packaging in the world, but can we deliver it to the consumers at a cost which they are comfortable and are accepting of? That's another challenge. So these are all things that go into that melting pot of, and again, what coming to a great design brief really is like, you've got to find that sweet spot between all these things. There isn't just a one size fits all, I'd say.
I guess that's actually really interesting. So going back to the design brief and the design process itself, and all of these ideas that you kind of come to the melting pot. And something actually Chris mentioned, the agility that you need. Have you found in the last couple of years the demand to design and come up with ideas for products, has that increased, decreased? How do you see it's changed in the last couple of years around the idea of agility?
Yeah, I mean, I'll let Chris answer as well on this. I think from a hair care category, I think what we see is lots of new products go into the market very quickly. They may not last or be around for that long, but they have enough of an influence to move the tide. So we've seen that the people have been adopting very different formats. Solid shampoo bars is just one example, one example I can give. That doesn't necessarily mean it's the ultimate solution, but it's moved consumers on. So we've had to look and respond to deliver products to the market which help deliver against that sort of desire that consumers have. But we also still know that the great products that we give today, we need to find different ways to deliver them to consumers. So being agile is key. If we stand still, then we're too far behind.
Yeah, it's a good point. I think I like the question, because you think about it, I do think design's changed a lot in the last few years, 3, 4, maybe even 5 years. And when you think about, we do more projects, but we probably kill more projects as well, which I think is more important. We focus on what are the right things to do, and design can really help bring ideas to life quicker. And I think that by default kind of help kill ideas quicker as well. It's kind of embraced the culture. That's a good thing. If we have this idea, we want to test it, we prototype, we learn, and we don't quite have that same excitement when we get the results, then maybe we focus our attention somewhere else. And I think design's perfectly suited, and just creativity in general. We all have ideas. How can we get them across? How can we show them in front of senior leaders? How can we show them in front of consumers quicker and get an answer, get a steer quicker, and maybe we can park it and move on. So I think, to me, especially in home care, that's the biggest change, I think, in agility that we've noticed within home care.
And actually, this kind of feels like the most obvious question following what you just said, Ben. All of this stuff, how has it been affected by the pandemic? Because obviously, last year or so, this has drastically changed our life, So I wonder now, all the things you've said, have they changed? Have you had to adapt? How have you had to adapt?
Yeah, the age of digital is well and truly here, isn't it? It's kind of been forced on us in a way, as we sit here now. I have to pull myself away from the laptop, really. At the end of the day, it's hard, it's different, but I think the positives are definitely there. When you think about the way you can collaborate digitally, it was a nervousness at the start of the pandemic. I'll be honest. How are we going to be creative? How are we going to collaborate through a screen? It just didn't feel right. In the office, we had whiteboards, we had tables, we had rooms dedicated to stuff. That's all gone kind of overnight. But I think the teams have really embraced it, and everyone's really kind of backing it, if you like. The biggest thing for me that I spoke about before is around, it breaks down barriers, I think, for us. You can talk to anybody across the whole of Unilever at a click of a button. You don't have to wait for them to be in the office or, to finish a call. As soon as their little icon's gone green, you can go for it. You've got their attention. And I think that's really helped with the speed and agility of things and getting decisions, and helping us react quicker, I guess, to the pandemic as well, and what we can do. the thing is also I want to mention as well is, our lab's still operational. We still testing, we still prototype. So we can design things in 3D at home, and we can get prototypes sent back to us from the team in the lab. They post it back. So there's bits of things that we've been able to do and keep open in a safe way and still manage our process. Because there are great things like augmented reality that we've really been pushing this year. So maybe getting a prototype sent 20 miles down the road is okay, but sending it to the other side of the world is probably a bit of a stretch. So we've been really leaning on digital tools. To send digital prototypes is a massive thing that we've been really pushing this year and really successful.
Excellent. Ollie, do you want to add anything to that?
No, it's very, very similar as you'd expect, really. I mean, we had a plan for our sort of digital roadmap of where we wanted to go as a team. That's just been accelerated. Obviously, we've worked together a lot over the past 18 months or so anyway. So we've been embracing the tools available to us much earlier on. Collaboration's been the key sort of miss for me, I guess, past year. As Chris mentioned, that ability just to be able to bounce ideas off people, collaborate quickly, get a coffee and discuss something. It's all lost. It's all structured within setting up time to have a meeting, and it doesn't feel very organic. And that's been a big change, I think, because of the pandemic. But yeah, I think Chris has covered most of the things there, to be honest. It's just pushed us into a digital space much quicker.
The question to ask you then, so you've said this change, you refer to it as a change, but do you think then the quality of the work has suffered at all in that effect?
No, I really don't. I think it's pushed us actually to be better designers more than anything. So we've taken on a lot more work. It's surprisingly, in a time when we would have thought probably maybe we wouldn't have had as much work, we've never been busier. And it's pushed us to improve, develop skills, but also learn so many things. We had a process, we knew the softwares of what we would do. This change is disrupted in a really great way. And the output and the quality of the work my team produce now is absolutely fantastic. I can't see us at all reverting back to how we used to work before. This is, I hate to say the new normal, but it's how we're going to continue to work going forward. Yeah.
So going back to the subject of sustainability and now bringing this, we're discussing how you've been working. Do you feel like, because obviously you've got sustainability in terms of packaging, but as a company, Unilever can look at sustainability from an angle of actually processes within the organization itself. How is your team looking into something like that? Question to ask, to raise maybe there's not an answer, quantifiable answer. Does remote working mean it's more sustainable? People are traveling less. I don't know. But how are you guys looking at sustainability actually within the work processes involved to create this packaging design and launch of products?
Yeah, I think we have for quite a while, to be honest. So like factories running on 100% renewables. It's a good point on travel. Travel's obviously massively been impacted. There'll still be a need for some travel, I'm sure, in some capacity, but as much as we were doing before, absolutely not. Workplaces, adapting to us being in less often, we imagine going forward. So there's been stuff in place for a long time, is that we practice what we preach. It's not just a message we send to the outside world about sustainability. It's how we live and breathe every day within the organization. So for me, it's kind of a continuation of what we were doing before. The pandemic sort of helps amplify some of the things even further, I guess.
Yeah. And to build on that as well, I mentioned augmented reality and prototypes and things. And, in the past, we might, send pallets of samples to consumer tests and around the world. But now we're sending, digital mock-ups. So, and I think that's because our hands have been tied and we've been forced down that direction from the pandemic perspective. But I can't see us going back to the old ways of doing things, So when you look at then the sustainability benefits of that, you're going to struggle to go back to the other way, aren't you? You really are. And I think we've even got initiatives in place where we have regional packaging teams, and they now have 3D printers as well. So we're no longer 3D printing everything centrally in the UK and shipping it around the world. We're looking at opportunities where we can give them the opportunity to 3D print locally. There are things that we're doing in that sense. And as Ollie says, there's loads of practices in place that we can kind of improve. Always open to new ideas.
Well, that's fantastic. What you're just saying is reducing this carbon footprint that a company has is always working towards a common goal. Even if it's a little thing, it ladders up, throughout the years. And that's fantastic. And last question to tie us up today. So what sort of advice do you have for other businesses looking to tackle the topic of sustainability, especially with regards to the design process?
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing for me, think from a packaging perspective, is think beyond the pack, think bigger. I think that's where we really get our wins, if I'm honest. 5-10 years ago, we might look at how we lightweight the pack. How do we get the most plastic out of it and still have a functional job? But now that's kind of gone. We really focus on experience. We focus on the best we can do for the consumer and the planet at the same time. It's not one or the other. And yeah, I think it's just become that non-negotiable. Don't kind of put sustainability on the back seat at the start of a project. It's there at the front and center, and don't ignore it. I think that's the biggest thing that I'd probably want to land there. And it's made easier by our brands, if I'm honest. It is because every brand that we have has a purpose, has a clear goal when it comes to sustainability. So we know, if we're working on Persil or Comfort, there might be a slightly different twist on the way we want to push sustainability. And Comfort's all around long-lived clothes, for example. So how can we look at different ways of, landing that message? So, yeah, I think in summary, it's thinking big, consumer, and purpose would be my top three things there.
Yeah, there's not much for me to add other, sustainability sort of it underpins everything we do. I think anybody else looking, how their design process should be is that sustainability is the heart of what you should be doing. You should measure against it. But yes, Chris mentioned it. I think it only lands really for us is if we have those brands with purpose and that they're believable. We are a company, we make lots and lots of products. Maybe there's a believability issue sometimes for people that how can a company make so much in products then sort of talk about sustainability. But it's about having that purpose, isn't it? And putting it into your workflow, every single thing you do, coming back to sustainability to ensure we are designing a better future. So, yeah, I think, as Chris said, it's at the heart of everything we do, and it should be for every designer for me.
That's amazing. It's amazing that subjects of sustainability is such front and center for Unilever, and it is their brand purpose. And you guys clearly live and breathe this approach in your design process. Thank you so much for today, Chris and Oliver. It's been absolutely fantastic and a pleasure to have you with us in this session. And thank you everyone who's been watching us live or on demand. And until next time, I'm Matthew Mifsud. Have a nice day.